fiercest junglers, Kha'Zix. Kobe, this guy's been running around Summoner's Rift, tearing people to pieces. What's going on?
One of my personal favorites right now. Kha'Zix, extremely strong in the meta. And actually, not only is he popular in pro play, second most played jungler, even in solo queue at the moment. So everybody's having a fun time. Now, this guy has many strengths. First and foremost, he's almost an unrivaled duelist. As you can see here, Kha'Zix, with the combination of taking Thunderlords, your isolated Q, you get to jump on someone, isolated Q, auto attack with your passive for extra damage, and Thunderlords. It's a huge amount of upfront burst, and he's able to duel most people in isolated situations. Now, this guy also has access to a whole ganking kit when he hits level 3. So a lot of early action is possible, even though he doesn't bring his own crowd control to a gank situation.
Yeah, it just feels like all the damage he's got plenty of mobility with the leap, just all the tools that you really want as a jungler to succeed early. Moving forward, though, kind of what's the nitty-gritty here? What does he do as far as those evolutions go? Because that's really the key part of his kit.
The evolutions are one of the best changes they made to Kha'Zix. One of the big changes is the evolution of the spikes here they're going to demonstrate. Now, if you upgrade them, the slow on them is tremendous, 80% slow. Not to mention, you also get the spread AoE now, so you can use them to poke in team fights. You don't always have to fully commit as an assassin, just makes his playstyle much more versatile. Then, as you can see, he still has the same old wings, giant jumping wings for the resets, for that classic assassin reset in team fights. And first, we have to go back to the claws, because your Q evolution, that's what gets you all that objective control. That's the one that enables these guys to take the really early dragons, as well as really add to the teamfight assassination when you get the reset on most of the cooldown for your isolated Q.
We've seen kind of a little variance as well. As far as evolutions go in pro play, what have we seen? Obviously Q's first, because you need that damage, but I think W and E, players are kind of deciding which one they like depending on.
Those have been the ones most recently switched up. I've been playing around with evolving W first and not even Q, but we'll leave that one on the drawing board. As for right now, yeah, Q first for the extra damage until it gets nerfed maybe. But yeah, the W and the E, the spikes and the leap, interchangeable based on the team comp that you're playing against. If the enemy team has a lot more tanks, a lot more CC, you don't always, have that time where you're going to want to commit, and people might not be low for multiple resets, so you can delay your E until later in the game for those team fights, or maybe you need that extra range early on. That's the point of Kha'Zix. He's versatile, and you can opt for those different ones. The one that's getting left off, though, almost all around, is the R evolution. Nobody really going for that Void Assault, as the other ones just offer so much utility. Other quick thing, though, even though we don't have much time, I want to slip in the build now. One of the reasons why he doesn't have many weaknesses, he's actually kind of tanky.
Yeah, which is kind of dumb.
Yeah, exactly. One of the most favorite builds right now is Ninja Tabi into Black Cleaver, which gives you a little bit of health, but you still do a lot of damage because it does have a lot of armor shred as well as attack damage. And then you throw in a Hex Drinker if they've got a lot of magic damage. So you're like this bruiser assassin, and you still get to 100-0 carry.
Those words should not be put together, but bruiser assassin is certainly what we've got. All right, Kobe, I'm watching LCS. I'm in solo queue, I'm getting terrorized by Kha'Zix. How do I beat it? What are the counters?
Not necessarily individual counters. It might be a trick question. There's no,
there are no counters.
Yeah, exactly. But there are things you can do to protect yourself, right? Protection first, Pastry. You need to group up with teammates, avoid being isolated. That's the no-brainer one, because that's where a lot of that damage comes from, and the important reset on his Q. The other thing is that lots of CC. Anytime you have assassins, that's the one weakness of Kha'Zix, right? You can lock him down in a team fight. Big thing why he has a lot more success now, though, is that he actually has that true invisibility with the ultimate. So pink wards, no longer a good counter to Kha'Zix, and you're actually going to need to lock him down and kill him within the CC. Things like Maokai, Zyra's is a good target, but can at least knock him up and get some CC off. So those are the types of things that you're looking for when you're defending against this guy.
Certainly tricky. We've seen our players kind of use both edges really well, both playing against him and with him in the LCS. So you guys are going to have to keep an eye out for that. But that is enough about Kha'Zix. Be sure to tweet us at LOL Esports using the hashtag NALCS if you want us to break down any other specific meta picks. Now, let's send it off to the casters to get us in the game.
Welcome back to Game 2 of Immortals versus EnVy. First off, before we jump into anything else, we got to talk about our player of the game in game number 1, and it was Hakuo.
Yeah, I mean, he started the game 5-0. They really dominated that bottom side of the map, and that was, even though they had like the two kind of freer kills early on in the game, most damage in the game as support, even as Zyra, still quite rare, so good job to Hakuo.
Yeah, did a phenomenal job as that damage-heavy support role. We'll have to see if he can manage to pull off another awesome performance like that here in game number 2. We talked about how the entirety of Team EnVy has got to be feeling good and a little bit relieved to have finally found their first win.
Yeah, well, the thing with that is I feel like the relief will really come if they can get another one. So, like, your first game victory doesn't matter as far as the overall standings go. It's all about getting the match win. So they need to be able to pick up that first win to kind of make sure they're not in last place. And it's one win closer after that game.
But Immortals, on the other hand, that we also talked about, that was kind of a wake-up call. It's like, hey, we've got to get ourselves together. We got to make sure we focus, get our heads on straight, and be ready to turn this around here in game number 2.
Yeah, and a lot of eyes are on Dardoch because he had such a strong debut into the NALCS last year, but he has looked very rough this week, making some very uncharacteristic, just mechanical errors, as well as being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So he's just all over the place right now.
Yeah, I highly expect to see Immortals pay attention, especially to the early status of their jungle in this game, to make sure something like what happened at the level 1 in game 1 doesn't happen again this time around. And I expect to see Dardoch be that much more careful, especially like the death we saw towards the end of the last game where he got caught out of his own red when it wasn't there. Just mistakes that can be erased. No real reason for those to be committed. Bans are going to be done, though, as LeBlanc, Rengar, and Camille all going to be taken off the table by Team EnVy. And the response from Immortals, Zyra, Malzahar, and Syndra.
Yeah, the tables have turned. It is Immortals who picks up the Kazakhs, and they banned Zyra away. Last time, Zyra was not banned, but Immortals let it go all the way back to the blue side, which at the time was EnVy. And interestingly enough, mirrored first 3 picks of this draft, because last game it was EnVy with Kazakhs and Immortals with the Varus and the Rek'Sai. Not this time.
Yeah, these are all the same. The first 4 are the same. The 5th one can't be because it would have been the Zyra. That's going to be banned away instead. Pobelter going to go ahead and decide to pick up that Rise for himself as Ninja responds with Cassiopeia.
An instant response with Cassiopeia. It's like they have this tier list super ready. They pick Rise, we pick Cassiopeia, go. Because you want to put the time pressure back on the opponent as we move towards the ban phase. And not much needs to change here, except for the fact that last game we had jungler, AD, and support picked, just the mid lanes here. So we'll see if we get more support bans, as EnVy will have the first support pick coming up here, but already 2 supports are banned in the first phase.
Still going to be focusing on those top laners in phase number 2.
Heavily.
Fiora, Jace, and Kennen all going to be removed with one more decision left to make by Immortals.
Yeah, and this could set up Seraph for a fairly easy Maokai pick, as all of the carry counters have been banned away. Immortals actually contributing to that a little bit with the Jace. I mean, Flame could just play GP again if he wants to go into Maokai, but I'd expect that Maokai pick to be lined up.
Tarek, going to be ban number 4, coming out in this second phase of that banning, as now it's up to EnVy to decide how they want to go about doing this. And there you go, Chat the Predictor, figuring out exactly what's going to be done.
The best top laner in the game when all the carries are banned.
It's like you're a psychic.
Oh my
How'd you do it? I don't know. Either way, it's still going to be locked in. It's an incredibly powerful pick. We're not that surprised to see it, and Seraph's going to be picking it up.
Yep, and now the question will be, do they want to priority pick a support? They have 2 picks in a row right here, where it won't matter what order they necessarily pick them in, but they pick their top laner match, which is Nautilus. Common, slightly unfavored matchup for the Nautilus, but still a good tank. And then it makes a lot of sense if they throw a ton of bans at support that Ole gets the Morg, because that's actually been, I think, his best performing support.
It's also been the support that he has played the most in Spring Split 2017. While everybody else is playing their Zyras, their Misfortunes, their Malzahars, Ole has 4 games already on Morgana and 1 on everything else that he's played.
Yeah, so once again, going with comfort, adding to the pick potential of this team for sure. This time, there are both teams that have very strong team fighting potential, a little bit more initiation on the side of Immortals. So if it does turn into that big brawl, instead of Immortals trying to play this higher execution, poke composition that requires a lot of scaling items, let's just brawl, and let's see how it goes.
Immortals wanting that brawl, seeing if they can make that happen and bring themselves the victory here in game number 2. While if EnVy gets it, we won't even need to see a game number 3. They'll finally have that win. They'll finally be feeling good about themselves. Of course, Hakuo likely not going to be the top damage dealer again with the Karma instead of the Zyra.
If he was, it would be incredibly impressive, just because the champions are heavily dictating what type of damage you do in the game. And Karma, Definitely not that type. Good lane poke, which is one of the reasons you pick it, because you can shove in very early on. It also gives you a lot of augmented power, I feel like, for the Maokai, since he's nigh unkillable already. Being able to speed and shield him up really multiplies his tankiness. But overall, I actually feel like both teams did all right in this draft.
Yep, some limited mobility on the side of Team EnVy in terms of, Cassiopeia does not have a built-in mobility skill. Varus doesn't have one. Karma can speed herself up, but no dash. So if these arrows and bindings and dredge lines can all find their marks from Immortals, they got a good chance to get some solid picks and good initiation.
Yeah, a lot of that will come for Hakuho to be able to assist the move speed of those other players. So nice pick for them, able to pick it up at the very end of the draft.
And it's nice to see both these teams doing well in the draft because so far in 2017, they've been two of the weaker drafting teams.
Yeah, I think that also has a little bit of confirmation bias built into it because we like to think when you see things winning a lot of the time, that becomes the draft priority. You think, they're good drafting. But I agree with you, especially on the side of Immortals. They've had some missed bans just straight up in a draft. They've had some very questionable bans. Some of that has to do with them just wanting to be a little bit counter to the meta. But at the end of the day, sometimes the matchups or drafts can just be objectively bad, and it's been occasional for Immortals.
Well, the drafting phase is over. The playing phase has begun, and we are on to Summoner's Rift for the second time today for Immortals versus EnVy. Can EnVy make it a clean 2-0, or is Immortals going to take this one to game number 3?
Yeah, that is the hope for Immortals. They do not want to start this split 1 and 3.
EnVy does.
EnVy would love to start the split 1 and 3. Since
EnVy does at this point. It's better than 0-3. That's the bottom line for these guys, as Apollo and Haku are just going to be setting up shop underneath their bottom turret as the Keystone Masteries pop up there on your screen. Warlords for both your AD carries, Thunderlords on the Morgana. You got your Wind Speakers for Karma. Courage of the Colossus, of course, on both those big tanks in the top side.
Yeah, and Fervor Rek'Sai is usually a choice between Courage and Fervor. Lyra looking for a little bit more of that stacking damage. Probably going to be seeing the challenging Smite Titanic Hydra build if he's going to be going with the Fervor.
And one thing I want to go ahead and point out, during the series that they had yesterday versus Phoenix 1, not Echo Fox, I got the name right this time.
Nailed it.
Lyra managed to outfarm his opponent a lot in game number 1 when he was playing the Rek'Sai versus Inori. He loves to power farm on this champion. He doesn't go with the Cinder Hulk rush. He goes for the Tiamat, wants to make sure that he's very effective at building that economy for himself.
Yeah, and I do also think, especially in this new season, it's very important when tracking our jungler CS that we're looking at the gold, because Kazakh's jungle camps differ greatly from Rek'Sai's jungle camps early on in the game. Notice right now, Kazakh's start, as they dodge the Empowered Q, very good for Mole right there to win the trade. But the Kazakh's does buff to Gromp and does the very low number camps because he's just working on isolated targets. But Rek'Sai has a lot of AoE with his Q, so he's already killed Raptors, and he's at, 11 CS after his 3rd camp. So we just got to make sure we're checking the gold to track those junglers' progress.
Yeah, it is kind of tricky these days with how many Krugs end up popping out of the big ones and how many little chickens you got scurrying around in the Raptor pit. The value of every CS is not 100% equal.
Yep.
So we always have to keep that in mind. The gold is going to be bottom line, as Dardoch around mid lane might be able to make some kind of a move here onto Ninja. Locks himself in, goes for the leap, finds some nice burst with the flash to go with it. Nice summoner spell burn.
Yeah, don't get the cleanse. Ninja's gone with cuts, but they go 4.
Pobelter. Woo! All right, Ninja's alive.
Yeah.
He's hurt, but he's alive.
He's looking away, thinking that was the end of it, and nearly missed the kill onto Ninja, but we'll see if that early gank can give Pobelter the start he needs. He did solo kill Ninja twice early on in the last game, so he's looking to build on that with that early pick rise here.
Meanwhile, in top lane, these two just kind of going to be slugging it out. Seraph, worse for wear for the time being, but as this lane goes on, as they both acquire a Spectre's Cowl, they're pretty much just going to be immune to each other, so it won't likely evolve into anything too intense, while bottom lane, just kind of a shoving war between the Varus and the Ashe, as they're just trying to maintain that lane control.
I agree. A lot of that turns into just who can be the better late game tank. Usually Maokai, but Dardoch, another quick gank. Apollo's playing very aggressively. Ollie's hoping to land a bind.
Ollie's got the flash, he's got the Q, he's got the damage, but the flash away is not enough. First blood for Cody's son. As
Here's Lyra, though.
He's got Lyra up in the top side. They're looking to return the favor on the other end of the map. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. See a flame, they've got the kill. 1-1.
Both junglers with hits at the start of the game. Dardoch's a little more important. He gets it for the AD carry, and we were talking about how that top lane has low kill pressure, but especially very early on in the map. We're going to see this first gank again. Ole flashes over the minions to land a point-blank binding. It makes it so there is no escape for Hakuho. They get 3 summoner spells out in the top side as well. Because Flame was trying to shove early on the Nautilus, he does expose himself. And Lyra had passed all the way through Dardoch's jungler, knew it was very safe because Dardoch had just showed in the bottom lane nothing was going to counter that gank, and they get a pretty easy kill on it.
Both junglers off to a good start for themselves, making sure that they get involved in these lanes early on, try to get these lanes ahead as effectively as they can. And the thing is about ganking for those tanks, although we talk about, they've got no damage, they're never going to kill each other, they've got a lot of good setup when the jungler does come.
Yeah, so the early ganks are the ones that are going to land more likely. And just even speaking to the matchup, the Nautilus does have a slight spell damage advantage and wave clear advantage early on, especially if they're going to be building Spectres versus Spectrals and not going for a Sunfire Cape, which is kind of auto shoves for you as a tank. He can keep that shove advantage for a while. So I like the fact that Lyra goes up there early, potentially gives Seraph kill pressure with that double Thorns ring, and maybe take away some of that early shove advantage since Maokai is a better late game tank.
Ninja putting a lot of damage into Pobelter, who goes for a trade against Cassiopeia and is quickly reminded why Cassiopeia is often picked into Rise, as she's able to just put that much more pain right back into him. Both of these rapid-fire spellcasters looking to see if they can take control and force the other person away and kind of end up playing their game. Tier up and running for the Rise, but not for the Cassiopeia yet.
Yeah.
So the stacking game is going the way of Pobelter.
Yeah, Ninja gets forced into an extremely early recall. Double Doran's definitely not ideal for the Cassiopeia. You generally want to get your single Dorans into your tier, into your Lost Chapter very early so you can just really spam out the wave.
Lyra might be looking to make something happen here. Just kind of hanging around in case Pobelter decides to get frisky. But I don't think it's actually going to end up happening. Lyra just deciding to go ahead and tunnel on through, go back up towards the top part of his jungle. His red buff will be respawning soon, and once he grabs that, he will be that much more of a gank threat. But across the board, farm staying very close between pretty much everyone and their counterparts.
Yeah, no catastrophic opening in this one, so the early game definitely feels a lot closer. The gank setup for both of these guys is pretty strong, especially watch for the level 6, because level 6 Ashe and Morg against a support that does not have flash can be a very fatal gank.
And one thing worth pointing out as well, Flame still has a good while to go on his teleport cooldown. Seraph has his teleport ready and available if they try to make some kind of a play.
That is going to be very important, especially because it's Immortals that would want to make the big play. And these are the types of things they need to be able to communicate to each other but haven't been able to sync up very well if you're Immortals, is just understanding where the whole map is. So Flame should be saying, careful, Seraph has TP, and that should subdue the aggression down bot from Cody-san and Ole. We'll see if it happens.
And that's kind of one of the questions that we asked ourselves about this entire EnVy squad going into spring 2017, is because in 2016, one of EnVy's tendencies was the top lane, the mid lane, the jungle, the Koreans on the team would all work together very well. The bot lane would kind of be left to their own devices. The language barrier kind of causing a bit of an issue there.
Yeah.
Is EnVy in 2017 going to have those same issues?
Yeah, early signs point to probably, but we'll see if they can improve on this Pobelter. Round warps.
Immortals looking to make their move. Seraph knocked up in the air, but Immortals decides they are not willing to go that close into uncharted territory and back away.
Yeah, and a lot burned for that attempted gank. So Flame now no longer having his flash, and Pobelter also burns his Realm Warp. And that's so interesting that they decided to try and go top lane for Seraph when we were just talking about how the Ashe Morg has so much more kill pressure. Why not Realm Warp play down there? Now, Ninja walks through a control wards going for a gank bot.
And just seeing what he can find on these guys, but flashes are back up, so he slithers his way back through that enemy jungle. He was spotted out by a control ward anyway, so he likely wasn't going to find a ton of success down there.
Now he's got to be careful.
Dardoch on the hunt. Might be looking for him, jumps in, able to find some
Nice
burst.
burn.
Gotta dodge away from that petrifying gaze. Beautifully done from Dardoch. Ninja getting himself back. He's got Lyra nearby to make sure Pobelter can't collapse, but Ninja gonna be worse for wear after losing that flash.
Yeah, Dardoch's really good at that turn on Cassiopeia when he's playing Kha'Zix, actually. If anyone saw Zyrene's lane preview at the start of the split, a lot of those clips were actually captured from some of the pro players' solo queue games. The Kha'Zix clip dodging a Cassiopeia ult in that was Dardoch in solo queue, so does it once again, but this time on the LCS stage.
And hey, it's a great talent to have when you know you gotta be playing against that champion. Very, very good to make sure that you nullify one of the biggest parts of the ability in that stun. 55 to 37 in terms of the jungle farm for Lyra. We talked earlier about how he is more inclined towards the AoE camp, so it will naturally be inflated. but still doing a good job for himself. Got the Skirmisher Saber, 2 long swords already built. Still just looking to get himself farmed as he moves further and further into this game. Cloud Drake also the first one going to be spawning this time. We aren't seeing the early take like we did in game number 1 as Seraph gets himself jumped on by Flame, who's very close to out of mana, so nothing more going to be happening here yet.
They might want to try a dive. Flame's a little low on mana. This could be dangerous, but they're going to go for it.
Seraph's only got half HP.
Watch to see if Seraph can dodge spells with Twisted Advance.
That's going to be critical for this. Flame soaking the damage. Seraph looking to turn things around if he can. It
Got
will
one.
be 1 for 1.
Yep, and he, I believe, was able to dodge the animation on Dardoch's first Q, which made Flame have to tank the turret for a little while longer. Because Immortals does get the assist gold, it is still a gold positive play for Immortals, not to mention the minions that die to Seraph's turret, but nice job of Seraph to get one back.
Here's kind of how everything went down. Seraph just not in the best spot.
Yeah, the long setup for this is Flame is really low on mana as well, but he knows Seraph is low, and he knows Seraph is flashless. So he's able to just kind of walk it behind the turret. Seraph can't make the run away. And the Flame doesn't want to get turret aggro until Dardoch is allowed to arrive. So they wait a pretty good amount of time. Gets it perfect in that sense. But then I think he sticks around a little bit too long because essentially Flame didn't want to get hit by that Arcane Smash because Dardoch was going to be able to finish him off. He does. That slows him. That gives the kill credit to Seraph. And it makes it a 1 for 1.
Seraph making the best out of a bad situation, keeping the game tied up at 2-2, 11 minutes in. Not a 2,500 gold lead for Team EnVy. This time around, it's going to be about a 500 lead for Immortals, as Dardoch is just hanging around watching Lyra take this Scuttle Crab. Steals it away, though. Nice fight.
Oh, man.
That was cheeky.
It definitely was, even though Lyra is getting pretty strong in this game. The kill for Dardoch keeps the gold pretty close. It's now only 150 different, but the Challenging Smite would have definitely swung that in Lyra's favor.
Scryer's Bloom kind of spotting out what the Immortals, or rather, what EnVy is doing in Immortals territory. So Scryer's Bloom fired backwards, going to be pointing out some of those wards for Cody and Olay to clear away as they make their way back down towards bottom, as Piercing Arrow also finds its way onto Cody's Sun. Those unblocked Piercing Arrows, the ones that don't go through minions first, have so much of a fight.
Yeah, especially later in the game now that everyone has switched over to this lethality-based Varus build. We're about to talk about that last game when they decided to fight for 5 minutes straight.
Yeah.
Never got back to it. But I feel like the switch between the Essence Reaver build, which we were seeing a lot of in week 1, to this, can be described with how ineffective either build is at killing tanks. So they were trying to do it with the Essence Reaver build, weren't killing tanks, so they said, why don't we just shoot past them? The lethality will be so much better on the squishies as they try and zoom away from the action. And that's what we're seeing.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow not going to be hitting the mark. The Binding will not either. And about that lethality build, you know, once we go further into the future and the patch catches up closer to what we're working with now, those lethality buffs coming in, yeah, will help this build as well.
Lethality is getting better early game next patch, so expect these Varus builds to continue. Tier Edge of Night, as well as Ghostblade is the go-to.
Dardoch going to be securing that Cloud Drake for himself and his team. Kind of the same thing we saw Lyra doing last time. Kha'Zix on blue team. Just jump over the wall, grab the Drake, get yourself out just fine. No contest. Slightly later than in game number 1, so we might end up seeing 1 less Elemental Drake total. It's also going to be Cloud instead of Ocean, but Infernal is number 2. So I expect these teams to both be concerned about that when it does show up about 5.5 minutes from now.
Yep, especially as the game stays pretty close. Belter trying to go in again for Seraph, ghosting.
Realm Warp's the name of the play, looking to grab the damage. The Flash is not going to be doing it just yet. Seraph trying to stay alive, going to be buying as much time as he can.
Gonna get Flame again.
Flame sticks around under the turret for so damn long. Belter going to be stopped as Ninja grabs the damage onto Flame. Needs another Twin Fang to do it. He can't go join Lyra. Now Lyra's going to be baited, has to flash away. Dardoch is there for the retaliation. 1 for 1.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just the top laners who die. So they're both kind of falling behind right here because there's only 1 kill and 5 deaths between the two of them. But watching that once again, Immortals really wants to try and kill Seraph as he's getting tankier and tankier. And I'm very surprised they're not just setting their sights bottom to that low mobility Varus. Even so, they're hoping to get clean pickings. Here comes Dardoch.
Oh, Ninja. Oh. This could be real bad. Petrifying Gaze backwards, but at least he has the flash to make up for it.
Yeah, Dardoch always trying to dodge, but gets the smite, lowers Ninja's damage, Gets the challenging spot on him pretty cleanly, and Ninja burns Flash. But we're gonna get to see this gank one more time. They start to play really early. Flame has been trying to shove Seraph in. I'd say the ult was a little preemptive because they were hoping to catch him outside of the turret. But then they get the right amount of turret aggro. Pobelter can't seem to land his first Q there. Can't get the Q through the minions, which is why the play delayed for so long. And then Flame had to flash out by the time Ninja was there because that play was so slow to develop. But ultimately, Darda comes in, kind of saves the day right at the end, keeps Lyra at bay, and it's natural 1-1.
3-3 overall, 23.3 to 22.8 thousand gold. So a very, very close match at 15 minutes into game number 2 as items are starting to come online. Abyssal Scepter done for the Cassiopeia, Rod of Ages on the rise, and the Yumu's Ghostblade done for that lethality build we were talking about on Varus.
Yeah, so Poke should be coming in pretty strong. Waiting kind of for the Ash Arrow play to come in anywhere.
That was not it, right. You don't just have to fire the arrow, you gotta hit the arrow.
Yeah, it is tough to land against the Karma because they can speed away.
Good process.
But that one I do not believe was sped away from, it just missed.
Blue buff fed over to Ninja. Of course, Lyra doesn't mind giving that one away at all. Rek'Sai, one of the most useless champions in the game to have a blue buff on. Cassiopeia, among one of the best.
Yeah.
Now
Get the CR.
Yeah.
Although, beautiful to have on Cassiopeia. Allows him to just shove out the wave so much.
Just non-stop spammage. Pobelter, of course, has his own, so both of these two have an unlimited gatling of spells that they can unleash should anybody be unfortunate enough to walk into their range. Lyra looking to maybe make something happen here in the bottom lane. Hawkshot's going to be shot off by Cody, just making sure they're not looking to collapse onto Olay super early. Turret taken very, very low. This should be turret first blood for these guys. EnVy grabbing that one for themselves, and that actually puts the gold game ever so slightly back into their court.
Yeah, and it's not like they're trading a turret for that. That was just brute force, being able to shove up the lane over and over again, using the Varus and the Karma and chipping away at it. Slowly but surely, it's nice to have that type of advantage because now they can be the first to roam to other lanes. The question will be, can they snowball that advantage? It's very unlikely that Immortals decide to freeze because if they do, they're almost accepting the 2 turrets going down. But it does give them a nice leg up to try and stay 1 turret ahead for the foreseeable future.
And we saw last game how EnVy was ahead for a while in kills, but it wasn't until they actually started working on those objectives that the lead became substantial. So hopefully this time around for Team EnVy, they can manage to do more once they start down that objective train. Flame getting himself back in the top lane. Seraph is kind of always the man who has to answer up here. He never has priority in the top lane. Flame's always the guy who's shoving him up and sort of being the boss with the 25 CS lead in the top lane.
And that is the way the matchup generally plays early with the Nautilus, especially now that he's been the first to complete Bami's Cinder. He will shove so much faster than Seraph, which does set up a little bit for some counterplays if they were trying to go up there for the game.
The binding coming out from Olay in the mid lane to prevent Ninja from going any further in case he decided to chase that. Both supports kind of going to be hanging around in this area now that that bottom lane first turret has fallen. Apollo going to be joining the party as well. And it's the usual play that you see once the bottom lane turret falls. Bot lane likes to rotate mid, try to force whatever they can force. Hawkwo going to be removing some of this vision. Olay gets himself out of the range of the tether before it pops, and Infernal Drake is going to be up in 30 seconds, so EnVy's control over this area is awarding them with vision priority.
And we've been prepping this fight for a while. So much of it should depend on whether or not one team can pull off an aggressive play beforehand. You can see they both have the same idea. Rek'Sai's waiting. Everyone's waiting. They go a little early. No surprises right here.
Lyra and Hakuo find him out with the Prey Seeker, move up, flex those muscles real big, knock away some of those wards.
Yeah.
Olay gonna eat the inner flame. The Drake is live.
Yep, no turret on the bottom side for Immortals, so that makes them give a little bit of ground over to EnVy. Both top laners have teleport as well, but they will need to be able to clear range of each other so they can't interrupt it. And they're going to start this in. Immortals should arrow.
Immortals looking to go. Arrow again! Not finding the mark. TP coming in. Drake's going to be taken by Immortals, but what else is the consequence? Flame getting away over the wall. Pobelter going to be targeted. Dredgeline back into the fight on the Ninja. Pobelter at half. Flame is dead. POB gone! Olay trying to escape as another kill is going to be coming through. They got the Infernal, but they lost 3 for it. EnVy, what can they find? What can they do with the victory they just claimed?
They have everyone still alive, but their minion wave is lagging behind. Just Cody Sun and Dardoch. They're going to try, I think, to rotate mid and get that outer turret down because that will jump their lead to about 3,000 after that big fight.
EnVy not happy about losing the Drake away, but their positioning, conceding that area to Immortals, allowed them to put themselves in a spot where they were able to win the fight afterwards. Now they're taking down the tier 1 turret in the mid lane. They've got plenty of minions here, it appears.
Oh, Ninja gets
Bond
aggro!
by Inspire as Ninja draws the aggro onto the turret from spitting out the miasma to zone away their opponents.
Yeah, so a little bit misplayed on the final bit there, but watch this. Whoosh. The Drake is low, the teleport comes in, EnVy decides to kite back, and Immortal spends crucial time finishing off the Drake. So that gives EnVy a little bit of a head start in here, and Seraph finally enters this fight. They can actually focus down Flame because he's not that big of a tank yet. And then that final flash from Ninja gives them the tag damage onto Olay, and so much of this is just because Immortal's not getting the clean initiations they want to. They're not landing the Asher before these fights happen. EnVy is able to disengage, and even though Flame got in, he was in before his team, and they were a little bit zoned out by the miasmas we saw in that last replay. So EnVy actually the ones executing a little bit cleaner.
As Immortals now move themselves into the top lane, going to be working on this tier 1, burning it down pretty rapidly. EnVy not going to be in position in time to stop
there
this VC into CC. See ya, Apollo. That's going to be a nice pickup for Immortals.
Finally, they get the combo, and you can see how lethal it becomes. CC stacks on top of itself so well. When you land one, you can land the Binding for sure. It means Ryze can get the Rune Prison. You can also land the Dredge Line. It just all comes in, and here comes another one.
Now
Ultimate.
Ninja in danger of being caught out. Passive going to find some CC onto him, gets himself away. The Clint's coming up useful in escaping from all that possible lockdown that could be coming in from Flame's Nautilus. As Immortals sees the opportunity to mount their push here in mid lane, Cassiopeia down a critical summoner, still doesn't have flash, from using it to grab the kill on Olay at the end of the dragon fight, but Immortals decides to back away.
Yeah, they do, and it's been a subdued game thus far, but with the Drake fight we just saw, I do think we can continue to rely on engages in that area, because that's really where these teams are going to have to break their bread. It's on the team fighting. They do not have super strong split push threats. They do not have assassins. All of this is just going to be jockeying around objectives, looking for picks, and having big team fights.
Just waiting until there's something worth spending all your summoner spells and ultimates on, and then putting it all into that same massive effort. Top laners are going to be setting up shop now in the bottom part of the map, as the Scuttle Crab is secured by EnVy in the top area. Ward's going to be set down around that Baron zone. 22 minutes into the game, it is live, and should another big team fight victory happen, either team would have the opportunity to jump on it.
Exactly. Cassiopeia can kill it incredibly fast. Kha'Zix can kill it incredibly fast. Neither of these teams should have too much issue taking Baron if the opportunity arises.
Seraph and Flame, both with the Spirit Visage done, both with Mercury Treads, both with Bombies. We've reached the point of a giant rock and a giant rock just kind of bumping into each other in the bottom lane, trying to find some noticeable impact on one another, but never really doing it.
The interesting point we haven't reached, though, is the tanks that can't die, because in this game, they actually can die. Their CS is a little bit lower. We have 4 deaths already on Flame. Just now getting the Sunfire Cape, but he's a little bit behind the damage curve, which we don't actually see that often. So if he does try to teleport into fights like we saw in that last one, he actually can die.
Now
and
Seraph,
let's see if they get Seraph.
the one who's in danger, is getting cut down.
How long will they take to kill Seraph versus the Baron Rush? Because you see, he doesn't actually last that long. Cassiopeia now with Baron. How fast can Immortals disrupt this? Flame is going to try and get in there with ultimate, and they do not have the karma to speed themselves up. Immortals are going to want to try and fight this, even if the Baron goes down.
They're sprinting for it. EnVy's got it very low. Down to about 1K, going to be taken. Can they find the escape route? Answer's going to be no just yet. Hawklow caught out. Damage coming down. CC's there too. Flame still looking to chase these guys out. Hawklow's going to drop. Pobelter does not decide to flash after this. Hawklow will be the lone man dying after that escape, except maybe I'm wrong. Lyra cut to pieces by Dardoch.
Whoa, that's a lot of damage right there at the end. So at the end of it, it's a 3-death trade for the Baron and also a mid lane turret. I think Immortals actually accepts that trade, even if they were a little bit slow to the Baron, especially if they can get more. No cleanses up on Ninja.
Ninja in some trouble. Dredgeline going to be coming down as well. Rune Prison thrown out. Flame now has to retreat. Pobelter going to be taken very low in his own right. The binding coming out to provide the escape. Flame still gets out alive. Immortals find the mid lane turret, go up to a 2-to-1 edge in that department. But the bonus received from EnVy for getting Baron leaves this game so close.
Absolutely. You can see they just burned down the Baron. Apollo had ulted. And then the missed binding on Hakuho actually delays the kill for quite a while. Flame was hoping to be able to get in on that one, but Pobelter wasn't willing to flash over the wall blind into 4 people because he didn't have enough teammates following to pick up the easy kill on Hakuho. Dardoch was sneaky enough, and Lyra should definitely have stayed with his team. That was a big misplay by Lyra to be in that area to get killed, but it means the gold stays almost identical.
Dardoch kills Lyra in a similar way that Lyra killed Dardoch in the last game.
Why are you at red buff? I don't know.
Red buff's just the cool place to hang out when it's not around, apparently. Everything just... I wanted to get myself killed. What's wrong with you? Lyra and the rest of EnVy, though, they're kind of finding themselves on the wrong end of the momentum as this game approaches closer and closer towards 30 minutes. Building up that shove here in mid lane. They've still got Baron buff up and running on a few different members. Looking to push down the tier 1. They'll take it pretty much effortlessly. Tie that up in terms of gold. Well, not in terms of gold, but in terms of overall turret count.
And I mean, Pobelter was just shoving out that lane in the bottom. This gives EnVy a head start on the next mid lane turret. Gotta wonder how much Immortals wants a fight here. Not that much.
Yeah. Pobelter had the opportunity to maybe go for some kind of a realm warp there. Doesn't want to do it. He would have been alone. Could have been very, very risky. Decides to opt against pulling that trigger and instead just wait for a better chance. Cody Stun has arrow. Olay has bindings, obviously. Have to see if they can find one of those on some kind of a value target. Ninja putting himself very far forward. It's always going to be juicy if they can manage to hit him with one of those, but you got to remember the cleanse.
Yeah.
If you find it.
Not to mention there are 2 tanks in the front line for EnVy that can block a lot of the initiation tools that Immortals has, like the Dark Binding and the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, so they're trying to be pretty safe about this siege. Doesn't mean Immortals isn't looking for the pick, though. Apollo wants to get poke in, but in doing so, does expose himself. Ninja's up forward. There's the bind.
Comes out. Not going to find its mark, though. Mantra Inspire, keeping EnVy very safe and very fast. The siege continues with this beefed-up cannon minion constantly just pouring those individual plinks and plunks into the turret. He's taken down, though, as Pobelter finds a Rune Prison on the Seraph. Not really going to do much of anything, though.
Yeah, really a low-action Baron for them as they sat and made no progress in the mid lane there. But the waves on the side have stacked up, which is pulling Immortals away to CS, and it will net eventually Cloud.
Drake number 3 this game, the first one that goes over to Team EnVy. They're going to tie that Cloud count up 1-to-1 with their opponents. Immortals, of course, still having the edge because they have the Infernal for themselves. The final elemental Drake that's going to be spawning this time around is Ocean. And another game with no Earth.
Yeah, no Mountain Drakes today until game 3 if it happens.
If it happens. That's what Immortals are dreaming for. That's what Immortals are working for. And what they're looking like they've got a good shot at in this game with a slight lead for themselves. But you got to remember, we said it about EnVy in game number 1. Throws can always happen. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is certain. And Immortals have got to make sure they keep playing this clean. Don't let themselves kind of slide into that lack of confidence, lack of planning sort of mistakes that we're seeing.
And I think they have been able to gather themselves a little bit in between games where they were looking fairly dejected. I mean, just the difference in mistakes is much lower from Immortals this time. Dardoch died 1 minute and 40 seconds into game 1. He's yet to die 28 minutes into game 2. That's an improvement.
Pretty stark difference.
Yeah, and they're also just staying pretty controlled here. So they know what their win conditions are. They got to keep looking for picks on the squishy targets. They really want to get an arrow or a dark binding onto Apollo. The problem is the kills is already completed, so anyone who gets arrowed can actually get cleansed away. It's going to be a little tricky to get him, but that's still what they want to go for.
Bottom lane tier 1 also drops now. Pobelter doing a good job of seeing the opportunity to jump on the free money with that one as EnVy rotates lots of people up towards the top part of the map, looking to maybe grab that tier 1 for themselves as well. Pobelter looking to force something here onto Seraph if he can. Just has to scare him away instead. There's really no kill potential on somebody like that Maokai alone.
No, definitely not. So it's pretty much just a wave game right here, and to see who makes the biggest play first. I'm wondering if Immortals is going to start utilizing Realm Warp a bit more feel like there's a lot of creative things you can do in order to beat people to turrets once you start playing this shove game, but yet to see a great use from Pobelter.
Yeah, we've seen a couple decent uses of it, but nothing like the TSM game finale that we saw the other day. No big eye poppers.
That was crazy. 3 beautiful uses of the Rise Ultimate for the team in a row, because what you can do with it, and we can kind of prep it in this game a little bit, is if you are sieging a turret, you force the enemy team into a spot to defend, and then since nothing moves a team as fast as a Realm Warp for 3,000 units, you just Realm Warp to a different objective. And you can take minions with you even if you want to, so you could jump from an inner turret to a Nexus turret and just take 2 turrets kind of like that. But mainly in this situation, say if the Drake or the Baron comes up, Immortals needs to shove up a wave, force enemy to defend, and then Realm Warp into the objective and kill it before enemy would be able to match. Would be the ideal use of it.
It's all on Pobelter, though. If he makes that call, if he finds that opportunity, finds that positioning. Right now, Baron's going to be live in about 25 seconds. There's not a lot of vision around that pit. You can see kind of a circle placed down here by EnVy around the outer area, sort of in the enemy jungle, but no vision actually on the pit itself from either team.
Yeah, and speaking of vision, the Sightstone has been built on Lyra as well. It's pretty rare this year to see Sightstones on junglers because they are such a carry threat. But the Achilles heel of EnVy has been not having the deep wards down and face checking. So they're kind of doing everything they can to prevent that. They have the Tremor Sense and an extra Sightstone.
EnVy looking to shore up those weaknesses. I respect it. You're saying, hey, we're losing games because we don't have wards? Lyra, buy some damn wards. Ah, look out! Oh, Lyra's going to be caught out, though. The arrow finds its way onto Apollo. It's going to be 2 for free. EnVy! Not what they needed to see. Hakuo flashing away. Dardoch having to jump after him. Doesn't even need it, though. Immortals just punched their ticket for a Baron.
Just as we talked about it with Rek'Sai and the Sightstone, he's still
We jinxed him.
by himself. No
jinxed
smite
him, man.
steal here. EnVy ain't even going to try. This is Baron for Immortals.
Freebie, no contest. No risk of a steal, no risk of a loss, and now Immortals looking to be in a great spot to take this one to game number 3. Here's your replay of how they got that catch.
Yeah, I mean, they're just kind of all gathered in the river, and there's not very deep wards considering where the Cassiopeia and the Maokai are for EnVy. So Apollo, even with the Mikhails to cleanse the CC, is just not enough. And Dardoch is super fast with the Ghost Blade and the Ultimate, and he'd be able to chase down that last kill.
And Apollo was right on that ramp, too. Like the spot where it's so hard to get away from incoming skill shots. Now EnVy's got to find a way out of this difficult situation. They're down about 5,000 gold almost. A fully Baroned up Immortals squad is pushing down mid lane, just completely smacked their tier 2 turret. Now they're going to be looking to find success in the side lanes and push it maybe even deeper into the EnVy base.
Yeah, they have a wave prepping in the top lane right here. Flame could teleport back in if he really wanted to recall. I don't know why he would want to recall. He's only sitting on 1,300 gold. But EnVy now can group 5v5 for defense. It's not unheard of to dive here. Flame is very tanky.
Pobelter in some danger, perhaps. Ninja going to be popping the cleanse, getting away from the arrow. Cody's done. Wrong place, wrong time. Ninja going to be taken out too as EnVy tries to mount the defense. Apollo jumped on, forced the flash away. Dardoch's able to grab the double. A hop, skip, and a jump right back. A triple kill for Immortals jungler. They're taking down the whole team.
And 40-second death timers throughout as Seraph finally goes down. Dardoch showing you his double jump skills right there, getting the resets midair. Big win for Immortals. They might be able to close out the game here.
Dardoch 8-0-3 on this Kha'Zix. 5-1-5 for Pobelter's Rise.
If they're quick here, they should be realm warping these minions into the Nexus turrets to speed things up. He doesn't do it. They're gonna win anyway.
No realm warp. They've
It's
got the
fine.
victory. Still 10 seconds on Apollo and Hakuo. Nexus turret number 1 is done. Nexus turret number 2 is going to be joining it. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are going to be going to game 3.
Yeah, we got ourselves a series as they just pile on another kill at the very end. 9-0-3 is the ending score for Dardoch. He needed to answer after that bad performance in game 1, 1-5 on Rek'Sai, and he absolutely does. They get him the early pick Rek'Sai. They do not fall behind in the early game. Pobelter and Dardoch really come up huge, and they force that game 3.
And you can even hear the crowd cheering for Dardoch. People realize this guy had the kind of game that the Immortals fans wanted and needed him to have.
Yeah, big smile on his face. That game was much cleaner. EnVy still having a lot of the same issues when they have these leads in the game. They're just not grouping when getting vision. This is something that it's not easy to do, but it is something that the pro teams that are mid to high tier all do. So you really notice it when it's not there, and EnVy really has to patch that.
It's a weakness that, although it might not be easy to patch, it has to be. It's a 100% necessity if you want to compete, if you want to be one of the top tier teams, a playoff team in the NALCS.
Yeah, and we're sitting here right now. EnVy's sitting at 0-3 on the split. Still only week 2, obviously. A lot can change, and EnVy knows all about that because they started last split, I believe, either 3-1 or 4-0, or long ago, and then still made the playoffs, right? So they know how much it can change in the later half of the season. But when you're losing games like this, it can be pretty damning.
Well, hopefully, for their sake, they can find a way to rally in game number 3, bring it back, find another win like they did in game number 1. But for game number 2, we're going to go ahead and take another look at exactly what happened in that final fight to seal the deal.
Yeah, and EnVy, I feel like, could have tried to wait for a turret dive, but they thought they'd be able to go hard on a Pobelter very early on here. And since they get the pick on a Cody Sun, they think it's over. But then Dardoch sees his window. He eats Ninja right there. Flame flashes to get Apollo. There we go. It's access to the 2 carries. So much in these mirrored tank fight teams, it's the Kha'Zix who actually is kind of turning it over because he's the only one who can reach the backline. And we saw that multiple times from Dardoch in that fight right there. And it was the clincher. He got, I believe, 4 kills in that fight, so pretty solid.
He was an absolute monster. But for a deeper dive on that series tying game, let's hand things off to Dash and Mark.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Immortals striking back, extending the series 1-1 here, going to a third game against EnVy. They looked a lot better in this game than in game 1. Obviously, they got off to a rough start.
Yeah.
But Dardoch in particular on this Kha'Zix 9-0-3, he is definitely the top performer for this squad.
Right, and I think you can say that for the majority of their games. He usually is playing well. Obviously, game 1, he kind of got screwed over by that level 1 by EnVy, which was nice by them. And then this game, there was a lot of problems with their decision-making and team fighting in the early mid-game, but then once they were able to get even in gold and get into later game team fights, he picked up a ton of kills. So he was playing pretty well. Pobelter as well, I think actually played pretty well game 1. He was, I think, 2-0 when the rest of his team was falling apart, and he was aggressively trying to make plays, not just like, oh, I picked up a couple kills. He was like in the enemy team's jungle trying to kill the jungler. So overall, I like that you see Pobelter on your screen. Doesn't look too happy, but I think he is playing pretty well.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I understand them not looking happy, and I think as a team, I would not be very happy with the way that this series has gone so far. I mean, you're looking at playing against an EnVy squad that's yet to pick up a series victory. They're 0-3 coming into this, and I think your expectation across the board is that we should beat most of these players in straight-up matchups. So why are these games even as close as they are?
I think you can just look at the macro play of these two teams and the fact that they seemingly have no idea of what to do in the mid and late game.
Sounds cruel, but it's true.
Right, and there's very clear examples by both these teams to look at. At 19 minutes, EnVy won a fight, and they go bottom, and then they hang around mid, and they stay too long. They don't even get the turret, and then it results with Apollo trying to hold top alone. He gets picked off, and they lose their top turret on the side of EnVy. Immortals, they have that 4-man roam bottom to kill a tank, and you sack Baron for it. So I think
totally worth.
Yeah, James, that's why you're plat.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm actually gold 1 right now.
Oh, okay. It's early in the season. You'll get there. You'll get
pretty
there.
rough. I don't want to talk about it. We'll get there.
But yeah, I mean, overall, you can see that there's these questionable decisions, and whenever you have teams making bad decisions, not just like it's a scrappy game, but like it's just a lot of fighting.
Right.
This is like actively slowing your winning. Like you're not making the plays to win. So I think when you look at that, you realize that these games get these kind of scrappy fights, and then eventually it's explosive and some team grabs the lead, but it's not like that slow goal graph that you see.
Right, and across both games here for EnVy, I would be, continually worried that we aren't, as a team, aware of how to close out games. I mean, again, you look at game 1, they were gifted a bunch of gold in the beginning of the game, and then that gold graph, did one of these before they eventually took the win. Here, similar thing. They had many opportunities to win. You mentioned Immortals handing them a Baron to trade for 1 kill. I mean, most teams would say, boom, that's our ticket to victory here, and yet they can't find a way to move as a unit and take objectives.
Right, and I mean, a little bit on the side of EnVy. I mean, Lyra, yeah, it's his first week here, but he did not get here on Monday, and they had a full week of scrims. He got here late in the week, so you can always say that, they're still improving and they're learning.
And when you look at individual skill, they don't seem individually outclassed. It is these kind of map movements where you're just unable to get much done, and that's really where, you know, more time would improve your team.
Right. I mean, it's tough to tell because of the scale of that gold graph, where on the top side it goes all the way up to 10,500. But if you look at that 20-minute mark, where EnVy had their largest lead, that's a couple K right there.
That's that team fight I was talking about. They win that team fight. They don't know what to do with it after to get more objectives, and then instantly, right after, you see it go back up because they couldn't hold that top turret versus Apollo.
Right.
And that's exactly that play right there. And you see the negative impact it has on their gold lead.
And then you see the contrast between those two roles that we were talking about, Pobelter and Dardoch. 20K in damage. Their counterparts doing 5.9, 8.8K in terms of damage.
I
so
mean,
just pure outclass.
It's one thing to see a lot of supports out damaging their AD carry with the caster, Malzahar, Zyra.
Yeah.
Morgana should not be out damaging an Ashe. Not quite that way.
5K damage in 33 minutes isn't standard?
No, it's not quite up to what I was
Okay,
expecting.
all right, I'll strive for a little bit more in my gold solo queue game.
All right, yeah.
All right, but
for
player
that.
of the game is going to go to Dardoch, who is 9-0-3 on that Kha'Zix. Again, this dude on Assassins, Rengar, and Kha'Zix is putting up numbers. But if he's not putting up those numbers, Immortals is taking losses. And so the question is, you know, can he consistently perform at this level? Probably not. So where is Immortals going to cover for that? For those few games when he doesn't pop off.
Right, I mean, that is the concern. Dardoch is the kind of aggressive player where, like, generally he will get something to happen on the map, and it's about having people support him and making sure it's the right play. And I think, minus that horrible start to game one, I think there's a chance that he can continue popping off the rest of the series and getting kills. EnVy on the other side really needs to look to control him because he is clearly the member of the team that controls the pace of the game for Immortals. So if they can hold him down like game one, that's a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, EnVy's still looking for their first series victory. We'll see if they can snag it here against Immortals. The teams are all tied up. When we come back, we'll see who can finish the weekend with a victory.
Always hoping to land a bind.
He's got the flash, he's got the Q, he's got the damage, but the flash away is not enough. First blood for Cody's son. Drake's gonna be taken by Immortals, but what else is the consequence? Flame getting away over the wall. Pobelter gonna be targeted. Dredgeline back into the fight on the Ninja. Pobelter at half. Flame is dead. POV gone. Pobelter in some danger, perhaps. Ninja gonna be popping the clans, getting away from the arrow. Cody's son, wrong place, wrong time. Ninja gonna be taken out too as EnVy tries to mount the defense. Apollo jumped on, forced the flash away. Dardoch's able to grab the double. A hop, skip, and a jump right back. A triple kill for Immortals jungler. They're taking down the whole team.